What is the ontological argument? The ontological argument says that the very idea of a greatest possible being implies that such a being exists, because existence is greater than non-existence. What is the ontological argument? The ontological argument says that the very idea of a greatest possible being implies that such a being exists, because existence is greater than non-existence. Anselm's classic form reasons that God is that than which nothing greater can be conceived. A being that exists only in the mind is not as great as one that exists in reality. Therefore, God exists in reality. Modern modal versions argue that if God's existence is possible, then he exists necessarily. The argument is purely conceptual and remains controversial, yet it continues to attract sophisticated defenders. The fool says in his heart, "There is no God." I am who I am. Anselm prayed in the proslogion that God would help him understand what he already believed, that God is that than which nothing greater can be thought. Plantinga's version concludes that if a maximally great being is possible, then it exists in every possible world, including the actual one. The argument begins with a definition rather than with empirical observation. God is conceived as the greatest conceivable being, maximally powerful, knowledgeable, good, and necessary. Anselm's insight is that existence in reality is greater than existence in the mind alone. If the greatest conceivable being existed only as an idea, then a still greater being could be conceived. One that possesses all the same perfections and also exists. But nothing greater than the greatest conceivable being can be conceived. Therefore, that being must exist in reality, and not merely in the understanding. Contemporary defenders have refined the argument in modal terms. A maximally great being is one that exists necessarily in every possible world and possesses maximal excellence in every world in which it exists, if such a being is even possible. That is, if there is no contradiction in the concept, then it exists in some possible world. But a being that exists necessarily in any possible world exists in all possible worlds, including the actual world. The crucial premise is therefore the possibility of maximal greatness. Critics deny that possibility. Defenders argue that the concept is coherent and that the burden lies on those who claim it is impossible. The ontological argument is unique in that it proceeds entirely from the analysis of a concept. It does not rely on the contingency of the world, the order of nature, or historical events. For that reason, it has always been controversial. Many find its abstract character unpersuasive, even when they cannot pinpoint a decisive fallacy. Yet the argument still performs an important clarifying function. It forces careful attention to what is meant by God. The concept of a maximally great being is not on the same logical level as the concept of a unicorn or a perfect island. Those lesser concepts do not include necessary existence as part of their greatness. The argument therefore underscores that if God is possible in the relevant sense, his existence is not a contingent fact among others, but a necessary feature of reality. What is the ontological argument? The ontological argument says that the very idea of a greatest possible being implies that such a being exists, because existence is greater than non-existence.